so much for joining us today. Thank you for joining our Enhancing the County of San Diego's Procurement and Contracting Policies meeting that we're having today. I really appreciate it. My name is Steve Lockett. I'm the Deputy Director of Economic Development and Economic Prosperity with the county's Office of Economic Development and Government Affairs. We're going to go ahead and jump on in and got a couple housekeeping items for you before we get into the meat of things. One is a reminder, this webinar is going to be recorded and it will be available probably starting tomorrow online should you wish to view it or share it later. Right now, as we're being recorded, your lines are muted. There are options for you to enter any questions in the Q&A box that you see below or in the chat function later. And also later in the meeting, we will have time to have a discussion, at which point you can use the raise hand function to raise your hand and join in the discussion. My apologies, right now we do not seem to have a Spanish translation. We had a little technical issue with that. If that changes at any point during this webinar, I will make a note of it to everybody. But for right now, we're just going to proceed as it is because we want to be respectful of everybody's time. So on our agenda today, we're going to be going over a number of things. But before we do that, I want to actually turn it over to Brian Albright, our Deputy CAO for our FG3 group. And I will let Brian take it from here to give us a welcome for today's event. Brian?
Can everybody hear me? Steve, can you raise your hand just to make sure?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine, Brian.
Appreciate it. We've had some technical difficulties. I apologize for that. I'll keep it very brief. I just wanted to thank everybody for joining. I want to thank everybody on this team for a year's worth of work in trying to get us to today and for all the feedback we've received from all of you that are participating today. There's going to be a couple of dozen or more meetings over the next month or so, including with smaller groups of stakeholders, including all of you. So there will be multiple opportunities, but I know that you've been engaged in this effort with us. It is a partnership from my perspective. And I want to be upfront with respect to all the work that's been done this past year. I've only been a part of this group for about half of that. So I sort of picked this up midstream, and it's been fun for me to get to work with some of you who I've known in previous endeavors with the county and some that I haven't, getting to know. And for those of you that I haven't met, I hope that I will have an opportunity to through this process. But you're gonna hear from us about where we are, and you're also going to hear from each other. And that is one of the reasons for this broader meeting, because whether you represent the small business community, nonprofits, maybe you're representing a larger contractor that's already doing business with the county or a supplier, we believe in addition to having the dialogue directly with us, it's important that you hear the perspectives of each other as well. And so with that, I will just express my gratitude for your participation, kick it back to Steve and the rest of the team to take it away and walk through our meeting agenda today. Thanks.
This is the interpreter speaking. I apologize about interrupting. Could you please activate the simultaneous interpretation? I was given the go.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us today. Feel free to jump in. I mean, if you want to give any intro in Spanish, feel free to do so now, and we'll continue after that.
Thank you. Les habla John Iván Arrasate, yo voy a ser su intérprete de inglés a español. A partir de ese momento se va a hacer interpretación simultánea de todo lo que está siendo dicho durante la presentación.
Thank you very much for that. And again, thank you all for joining us today. Thank you, Brian, for that introduction. We really appreciate it. Before we move forward, I wanted to give a quick just shout out to all the fantastic partners we have here inside the county, all the different departments that have made this possible today, and all the work that we've done over the last few months and that we're still working on, as Brian mentioned. Of course, our Department of Purchasing and Contracting has been instrumental in moving all this forward. Our Office of Economic Development and Government Affairs, which I'm a part of, has participated as well with a lot of outreach. We've spoken to a lot of you over the last couple of months. Our Office of Equity and Racial Justice, our Office of Labor Standards and Enforcement, and our Office of Sustainability, Environmental Justice, they've all played a part, and others. But a number of them are on the call today. So when we get to the point later, when we're having discussion or when we have some more Q&A, they're available to both answer questions virtually or that's all virtual, but online via the Q&A function or when we get to the discussion items. So today we're going to go over some background about why we're all here today, some proposed policy changes we're looking at here in the county, discussion of some new policy elements that we would love your input on, and then I'll go over next steps. Before we do that, though, I want to do a quick poll for everybody here. I noticed that we have quite a number of you all on the call today, which is very exciting. What I'd really love to hear from all of you is, this is a process we've been doing for a couple of months, but have you provided any feedback on county procurement and contracting practices and updates to date? And if so, if you could say if you've done it via a survey, a webinar, a meeting, or if this is your first time, that's great as well. So we're just going to take about 30-40 seconds to answer this, and then we'll move on. Excellent. From early indications, it looks like this might be the first time for a lot of you. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to move forward, and what we're going to do is share some information with you today. I know for a lot of you, this may be new, but that's fine. This is, as Brian said, we'll be having some other meetings over the next month-ish. So, you know, this could just be the first of many that we have. So thank you very much for participating today. So first, I'm going to go into a little bit of background. Over since last summer, fall, the County of San Diego, through the numerous departments that I mentioned earlier, has been trying to do some outreach on how we as the county can do better in our procurement efforts and our contracting efforts to make sure that we're reaching the vast majority of small businesses and entrepreneurs and businesses across the county that want to do business with us. The County of San Diego buys a lot of things throughout the year, from little things to buildings. And so we know that there are ways that we can improve our ability to procure, to do outreach, and to better help you as entrepreneurs and business owners do business with us. So what did we hear? You know, we did a lot of outreach and we asked, what can we do better? We didn't want to come forward with proposals until we heard from you what you all wanted to see us do. So some of the things we heard, as you can see on the screen, make the process easier, focus more on equity and inclusion, do better at providing communication earlier on solicitations that are available, provide more support for small businesses and nonprofits to be able to bid on procurement efforts, provide more technical assistance to those who need it, and follow up in the procurement process afterwards for any kind of feedback on bids or any next steps. You know, we took that information and we really took it to heart. This information came into us summer, late fall, and we've spent the winter and the months since developing new programs and updating policies. Next slide, please. Developing new policies and programs, some changes that we think are really important, that we really think reflect what we heard from you and our greater community. And so what we're going to be doing today is kind of going over some of those policies. But first, in a nutshell, these are kind of where we're looking. We're looking at simplifying the procurement process. We're looking at how we can best support small businesses, nonprofits, and veteran-owned businesses. That's both through a policy lens and a programmatic lens. And also, we're being mindful of everything we do here in San Diego County. We want to make sure everything is sustainable in our practices that we do. So a lot of what you'll hear today will fit under these three buckets. And we're always open for more feedback. And I think this is a great opportunity for us to, again, reach out to you and for you to provide feedback to us. So Before we go any further, what I'm going to do is introduce my colleague, Anita Walia. She is our small business manager here with the Economic Development Office, and she's going to go over the proposed policy changes. Anita?
Thank you, Steve. So as Steve mentioned, we took some of the feedback that we heard when we were doing that work in summer and fall and came up with some changes we think that will really enhance the policies that we have. And we wanted to bring some of those back to you to really hear what you think about it. So I'll give a fair warning. I'm going to go over these a little bit quickly because we actually have a more in-depth discussion portion of the presentation. But I am going to share at the end of this how you can review this information, where it's posted, and how you can do a feedback survey to let us know what you think, as well as ask us additional questions. As I'm going through, again, feel free to use the Q&A function in Zoom. We have some folks that can try to answer some of those questions as we're moving forward. And like we said, anything we don't answer today, we'll certainly get back to you on. So let's get started. So in an effort to simplify our processes, we are proposing to increase the award limit for simpler, faster procurement processes, like the request for quote, from $100,000 to $500,000 per year. Okay, but what does that mean? We anticipate with this change that more contracts would be awarded through the RFQ process, which is typically quicker and more straightforward and less costly for businesses and nonprofits to participate in. This reduces the time and resources needed to compete for county contracts, especially when compared to more formal processes like the request for bid or the request for proposal. So overall, we really think this change is going to make it easier for businesses to work with counties, and especially for those small businesses and small nonprofits. Another change, when contracts are reserved for small local businesses, the county would be able to use simpler procurement processes like the RFQ for awards up to $1 million. So by increasing the limit from the previous limit of $100,000 to $1 million, we believe that we're creating more opportunities for small local businesses, including veteran-owned businesses and nonprofits, by reducing paperwork and just speeding things up. And we think this is going to really help us grow our local economy and support the businesses here in our community. Yeah. So under the Small Business Preference Program, we are proposing to increase the small local business preference from 5% to 15%. So what would this mean? Local businesses would get a bigger competitive boost when bidding for county work. In other words, their price will be evaluated as if it was 15% cheaper, helping them better compete with larger companies. Additionally, large contracts over $1 million per year for services, professional services, and public works would require or encourage at least 3% of the work to go to small local businesses, including veteran-owned businesses and nonprofits. So in other words, again, what does that mean? Larger public works and service contracts would have requirements in them to include or encourage the use of small local businesses as subcontractors. So you heard me reference a couple times veteran-owned businesses. So we are proposing to expand the definition of a small business to include veteran-owned and disabled veteran-owned businesses. So these businesses would qualify under the same programs and have the same benefits as other local small businesses and nonprofits. That includes things like what I was just referencing, access to the simplified procurement opportunities for contracts up to $1 million per year. This change, we hope, is going to help open more doors for veteran-owned businesses and recognize their role in strengthening our local economy. Additionally, we also want to increase the amount the county can spend directly with disabled veteran businesses. So right now that's at $50,000, and we want to increase that up to $75,000 without needing the full competitive process. So again, that would make it easier for disabled veteran businesses to work with the county. And finally, we want to add clearer guidance on how we, the county, choose environmentally responsible products and vendors. This includes items that are reusable or refurbished, avoiding harmful chemicals, and selecting products that save energy and last longer. And this would help us make greener choices when buying goods without limiting competition or driving up costs. It's for us a smarter, more sustainable way for us to spend public funds. Okay, I know that was a lot to take in and a lot of information, but don't worry. We have all of that information I just presented up on our business contracting page on Engage San Diego, which is the county's engagement platform. So to give you all enough time to really read through those and think about what your feedback is and ask us any questions, we have a survey there, and we're going to have that live until May 15th. So you have some time to really think about your feedback and let us know what you think. If you have questions, again, use the Zoom Q&A function, but we also have a Q&A function on that Engage page, and we will be getting back to you there. And we're going to keep updating that page with additional information as this project moves forward. So with that, I'd like to turn it back to Steve to take us to the next part of our presentation.
Great, thank you very much, Anita. As you can see, we've been working hard, listening to what everyone has said, what everyone has told us, and we really feel these new policy or proposed new policy changes can make an impact. And I think personally, being someone who's worked in economic development for nearly 20 years now, I really feel that these proposed changes can make a major impact and really see the number of small businesses benefit from these changes. Right now, I'm going to go into our discussion time. So this is where definitely would love your input now. You don't need to. You can think about these things. You can always get back to us later through the Engage San Diego page. But what I'd like to do now is take some time to discuss some new policy elements, particularly around small local businesses in our policy. So one of the things that we heard when we did outreach last fall was that there are a number of organizations, both locally, statewide, federally, that require small businesses to be certified, to be able to go through their procurement process. One of the things that we heard was a desire to make that an easier process for the county. So we've developed some potential definitions and policies that we feel best represent that, and not only assist small businesses to be able to do more and be more effective with their time, but also to incorporate nonprofits in the definition as well. So as you can see here on this slide, what we're proposing to do is kind of increase our definition or expand our definition of what a small business is for county procurement to, as you see this second bullet point here, certified by the state of California. That's in our current policy right now. That is our current definition of a small business for county procurement. What we would like to see, what we are proposing and want your feedback on, is expanding that definition to include that that doesn't have to be certified. You just have to meet the definition of a small business as defined under the state of California. We feel like that will kind of allow more small businesses to participate. Additionally, we're looking at how we can include nonprofits in the small business definition as well. So as you can see here, we have our proposed definition of a small nonprofit will be considered a small business for the purpose of county procurement and contracting if it's a recognized nonprofit and it also meets the same requirements as above in the small business definition. Third, the other thing we heard was here in San Diego, we have a number of awesome organizations that a lot of small businesses want to do work with, whether that's us, the city of San Diego, the Port of San Diego, SANDAG, university, school system. A number of those have their own certification processes, whether saying you're a certified small business, you're a certified minority business, you're a certified woman-owned business. And instead of us in the county setting up yet another set of certifications, if one of those organizations, if you are so certified with one of those other organizations, we would reciprocate and take those in as well. So we're going to go through right now. This is very broad. We're going to go and take each one of these three one by one right now, and starting with the next slide. And this is where I would love to see your participation. Please feel free to put in some comments or raise your hand if you have any thoughts on this. But the things we would love to get your input from are, Does this expansion of the definition this really help? Would this help you as a small business owner? Would it help those small businesses that you work with? Why or why not? What are the benefits or challenges do you see if we use that? And if are there any small businesses that we may be excluding by taking this approach, looking at the state level? So with that, I am going to open it up for anyone who wants to raise their hand or have any comments. I'm sure, I see that we have a good number of people on this call. I'm sure there's some thoughts on this. And thank you. As you can see in the chat function, we just had a comment about how to raise your hand. There is, yes, everyone is different. This is Zoom. So please locate the reaction button at the bottom of the Zoom window. It's usually a smiley face. Click on that, and in the pop-up menu, you can see the option to raise your hand. So if you're having any issues with that, or you can't find that, please put that in the chat. We would love to hear from you and your comments on this. Okay, Anita is saying we have a speaker. Who do we have?
Yeah, so I'd like to invite Prachi Singh, and I'm going to try to unmute you now.
Yeah, and hi Steve, how are you guys?
Hello, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I have a question on this one. Like you are talking about the small businesses. Does the NMSDC certified businesses also come under those? Like sort of if we are NMSDC certified, like the minorities, and we are a small business. So where do we stand in there?
Yes, you would, under this proposed change, you would be classified as a small business for us in the county.
Okay, cool. So we would need that certification as well.
You wouldn't have, you would just have to show us that you are thereby certified, and we would accept that.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much.
Sure thing. Thank you for your question. I see a question in the comment. Not sure I'm getting these in order, so my apologies. And if I miss one, please feel free to call me out. What will we need to prove we're already small business certified by another county or the state? If you have any documentation on this, you would just share that with us. Let's see. I see Katina has raised her hand.
Hi, thank you, Steve, for recognizing us, and thank you guys for doing this. My name is Katina Cunningham, and I have a incorporated business. I'm incorporated through the state of Georgia, and I am on the call because I'm looking and I'm working at the present. I'm doing stuff pretty much in the community right now, just as just give back in the community. But I've done a lot in procurement, and my background is in technical IT consulting and education. So what I'm looking to do is I'm here to get as much information as I can. When you're speaking about certifications, with me being an incorporated state of Georgia, a technical consulting firm, what do you require? Or would that require me to apply as a foreign entity, or how would that work? If you can speak to that, please.
That's a really good question. So you were just right now based in the state of Georgia. You're not here in California yet as an enterprise?
Yes, I actually lived in California, but the work that I've been doing has been contract. I've been 1099ing as my company.
Okay.
So what I want to do is get more. I've supported procurement from the IT perspective, supplier engagement, and things of that nature. But I want to begin to seek out contracts here in the state of California.
Sure.
And I just want to know what path I should take to certify myself here in California. I don't know if that looks like incorporating as a company, a small business, or doing work as a full incorporation through California. Sure. Or would that be acceptable for me to just do a foreign incorporation of my company, C3 Innovation? I don't know if you can kind of speak to that. If not, I can inquire offline.
Yeah, I think what I'm going to do is direct you to Anita Walia, our small business manager. And I'm going to have her and someone from our Department of Purchasing and Contracting reach out to you to kind of go through what your potential possibilities are, and probably connect you with the Small Business Development Center or Apex Accelerator to give you the
Mhm.
best and easiest process and guide for how to get you, based out of here.
Okay.
I think there are ways we can work with that. It's probably a little complex to answer right now, but I'll make
Mhm.
sure we reach out to you offline. If you could put your well, I'll have Anita reach out to you, okay?
Okay, I'll do that. Thank you. I look
Thank you
for it.
so much for
Appreciate it.
participating.
Thank you.
See, do we have anyone else with their hand raised? Alan,
What you're saying sounds helpful, but what if somebody like tries to say that they are a small business and I mean, are they able, do you still require proof and that they're not, some of our competitors are definitely not small businesses, and I just wondered what would happen if they tried to say they were.
well, we are gonna have to, we will be putting in things that will have to necessitate anyone saying that they're a small business to prove that, whether that's whether they have that certification or whether they meet the definition of the state of California. We will have to verify that, for our procurement process. So that
Mhm.
will be part of the process that we go through when these RFPs are going out.
Okay, all right. So as you look through the RFP submissions or people that submit for them, that's when you'll verify that they meet the qualifications. Okay,
That
so
is likely how we'll go through this, yes.
okay, so this for any of us that do qualify and this process takes a while, this is just going to speed it up for us then for
Our
when we
goal is, yeah, our goal is to make this a quicker process because, I'm sure you may have come across this. A lot of times, some folks feel like they don't have the time to put in a full bid, or, so this is a way that we're trying to speed things up and
Yeah.
also open up the door for more people to participate.
Well, we also ran out of time when we tried to submit there was because it takes a significant amount of time to get the certification. And what we found is we were able to get the disabled veteran, but we weren't able to submit for the small business in time.
Gotcha. Well, under our new policies, showing that you're a veteran-owned business will be incorporated in our small business
Awesome. That would be helpful
portfolio.
for
Yes.
us. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I'm Janice.
Oh, I can unmute. Thanks.
Sure.
I'm right in the process of starting a small business. Does it make a difference if on how I incorporate, like like an LLC versus an S corp? And also, how do I become certified as a woman-owned and minority-owned business?
So I will say the state of California has on their website information on how you can become certified via the state for those. And then depending on other jurisdictions, they may have them as well. So what we can do is, again, if you provide it, we can make sure we reach out to you and connect you with that. And as in terms of the type of small business you are incorporating as, do we have someone from DPC, Sheena or Alan? Can you jump in and just verify that answer? Just give us 1 second.
Hi, I'm here. Yes, that's
Hey,
my
Sheena.
understanding as well, Steve.
Right. So no, I don't think it matters how your small business is formed. Just, when you do your proposal, when you put that in, you have to show that you can do the work, but your formation should not be an issue.
Oh, thank you so much for this information and for having this.
Our pleasure. Thank you for your question. Quick question to my team. How many more questions do we have, or how many hands do we have raised right now?
We have 2 more hands raised.
2 more. All right. So if you, I see Joshua.
Yes, thank you. First of all, two quick comments. So pleased that you can organize this, and also really applaud your efforts to recognize both the small businesses and the nonprofit. So really great. And I say that particularly because as a small business, I've been trying to pursue federal contracting, and recent policies have really hammered small businesses or disadvantaged them. So it's great to see that back home we have options. a couple of questions. As far in terms of the small businesses, of course, they are driven by some profit margins. Non-profits are not. Are there margins or is there a way to demarcate those two segments in terms of what the pathway is for small businesses so that they can make profit and continue to thrive vis-a-vis the non-profits? And then you also talked about preference. Is that the same as set aside? And specifically, is there a percentage of set aside for small businesses in the procurement process? And then my final question is, in terms of lowering barrier to entry for newcomers like myself to this process, is past performance with the county a critical determining factor of my success, or is that a much more level playing field? Thank you.
Sure. I'm going to answer these a little out of order. We do have a small business preference. As Anita mentioned earlier, she kind of went over some of those policy updates. And if you go on the link to our Engage San Diego page, you can find more information about what it means to have that, to be a small business and what preferences we get. And as for I'm sorry, your third question was, it was around past experience with government enterprises. I'm going to let Sheena answer that one. She is from our Department of Purchasing and Contracting. She could answer that one probably a little better than I can.
Hi, Joshua. Could you repeat the question? I want to make sure that I answer it thoroughly.
Yes, I was just thinking about Sheena. Great to be back in touch again. I met you at the recent event. Yes, it's about what I would call lowering barriers to entry for small businesses like myself. A lot of government agencies require past performance to demonstrate that we have done business with with government agencies, particularly in the county. Is that a requirement for newcomers, or is there a much more lower level of entry that anybody can participate as long as we have the qualifications and the experience?
That's a great question, Joshua. Thank you for the question. I'd like to clarify, we don't limit anybody from responding to our procurements. Some of them will ask for your expertise, and we're hoping that you'll be able to demonstrate that, whatever expertise you have in that specific area, but we don't limit it based on that criteria, if that makes sense. Does it answer your question?
Yes, and thank you.
You're welcome.
Joshua, I know you had a third question about, I believe, differentiating between small business and nonprofits. I'm not quite sure if you could repeat that again, what you were looking for.
Yeah, it was a comment, first of all, to applaud that both of them are included. Then there's a question.
Yes.
Then the question in terms of the small business is small businesses, of course, are driven by profit margins, unlike nonprofits. And I was just wondering whether there is any differentiation in terms of how the small business will be able to make profit as a response to the request for applications vis-a-vis the nonprofits.
Yeah, as I mentioned, and as Sheena mentioned, we do have a preference for small businesses. We want to be mindful. Part of the reason we have the small business preference is to enable small businesses with limited cash flow, limited overhead, or to try to help limit their overhead so they can, get that cash flow from getting procurements. We also wanted to make it open to nonprofits because there are a number of nonprofits that do wonderful good work and fit in with the mission and goals of the County of San Diego. This is actually going to be a question that I'm going to be asking on our next slide. So if you want to hold off just a second, maybe we can get some further input on that. I'm going to switch it over to, I believe, Zach had a question. Zach, are you there?
Unmute. There you go. I think if you guys could put the definition up of what California defines as a small business, that might also help. Because going back to the question I was asked earlier, as a small business, you have to have less than $10 million in revenue over the last 3 years of your business when you apply. The other thing I was going to suggest is perhaps the county could contract with some of the consultants that understand how to help small businesses certify to work with them and put together the certifications together. And then
Mm,
that way you might be able to submit these things much faster with less headaches. Because if you make mistakes, then you have to go back and change those. So that might be some way to help in doing that, or have a separate seminar on how to do this.
that's a great idea. I like that idea a lot. Thank you, Zach. I appreciate it. Good to hear from you as always. With that, I'm going to go ahead and jump to our next slide. So as we were saying, nonprofits, we're looking at incorporating nonprofits into our definition of a small business. And so you can see here on the right, as I showed earlier, our proposed definition of a small nonprofit will be considered a small business for the purpose of county procurement if it meets the same requirements that we say a small business needs. So one of the things that we would love to get your input on is, knowing that we have a number of folks who might be from nonprofits on this call with us, knowing there are a number of nonprofits that already have procurements with the county, how do you all feel about including nonprofits in the preference for small business? Are there some that might provide good services but might not fit this definition? And is there anything else we're missing because I think we're doing this with all best intentions, but we want to see, is there anything we're missing when we're bringing in nonprofits to also be, have the same small business preference? Alan.
Yes, I would say that they're different. Some nonprofits are very well established, and although they are nonprofit, they still are able to have a lot more funding, a lot more capital, a lot more resources to work with that us starting small businesses don't have and are struggling to get off the ground with. So I don't think it's a fair comparison to say that we can put the two in the same category.
Alan, to your point, let me know what you think about this. We're looking at kind of calling them small nonprofits, and if we're using the definition of small business that Zach just referenced with with state of California, it's under $10 million in revenue and certain number of employees. Do you think having that kind of requirements would help forestall some of that competition from larger entities against small businesses?
That's a lot more fair.
Yeah, right. Joshua.
Yes, no, I frankly think it's great for the county to leverage both small businesses and nonprofits. I straddle those two spaces, and I know the benefits of both. I think, and I like the idea that you can segment or put a limit in terms of the size of nonprofits that can access county funding, just because there are some that are far too big in terms of capacity and budget size. The only comment I would have, which was probably my earlier question, is small businesses are driven, have to make a profit to be able to thrive. Now, clearly, non-profits are going to be cheaper because they're not driven by profit margins. So if you are competing for the same opportunity, by all accounts, the non-profit submissions are like to be lower costed because they're just doing the good services for society. And that could be an disadvantage for small business. So how you make that slight distinction is going to be critical for both to succeed.
Absolutely. And Joshua, to that point, remember, no matter who is submitting a bid for any kind of county procurement, they're going to have to show that they're capable of doing the work. So even if you have a small business or a small nonprofit, they're still going to have to show that they have the capacity and capability to do the work. And so there is that to keep in mind. But thank you very much. That is something we need to be thinking about. Ronald.
Thank you.
Yes, Ron Stark. I'm speaking on behalf of San Diego Veterans Coalition at this particular junction, though I do work for a large nonprofit in the county as well. So I just want to be clear that I'm asking this question. Number of employees, nonprofits may have a volunteer board that serves the operational capacities. And that would be something to consider because you basically have no employment there. And then the other thing is there are many grants that require you have X amount of receivables for a period of 3 years. And if that's been brought into, and then defining, because there is an economic engine of nonprofits having employees, generating income taxes, property taxes, sales taxes, et cetera. Is there consideration to that? So if there are no employees, or, I mean, because it just seems like there should be a weighting, and then the competing for gross receivables over a period of time, whether that, because there, and I don't want to, there are a lot of nonprofits that start up and have very few employees or no employees. And then this idea of history or performance as a nonprofit in the arena as well. And then for the percentages that you gave at the beginning of so much is going to be set aside for small businesses, it does seem like that should be maybe a further percentage of so much for nonprofits, so much for profits, because I do appreciate that profits generate a good economic engine in wages and and rents and things like that because of their employees. So I'll just leave it at that.
Well, and to your point, thank you for bringing that up. That's something we have heard, I have heard. We didn't want to put it on this slide because we wanted to get people's input. But one of the things of feedback I had heard about this was it might be good if we look at having this definition include nonprofits that have paid employees. One, that kind of goes to your point about sometimes nonprofits have volunteer boards or work or staff, and it may be beneficial both for the to ensure that they have the capacity to actually do the work that they have paid employees, and also as a safety measure and risk management measure for the county, showing that they have paid employees and have payroll. So that is definitely something we're looking into. And if anyone else has any thoughts or comments on that, please feel free to put in the chat box or on our Engage page. I'm gonna take. Let me see.
Can I
Yeah, please go
qualify
ahead.
that again before we go?
Absolutely.
So for a nonprofit that does not have employees but is intending to employ an operational staff, that might be a consideration that if a procurement was given and it was going to go to employees, and then how that would be, because there's fiscal agents, all kinds of things that go with nonprofits and their employee base. So
Okay. That's great food for thought. Thank you. I'm being mindful of time. I'm going to take one more hand. Team, if you can pick one of the folks who has their hand up for one last question before we go to our next slide.
Sure. Let's give Janice an opportunity to speak.
Janice, thank you.
Hi, thanks. I seriously considered both starting as a nonprofit or a small business. I think there should be a budget for just small businesses versus nonprofits, because nonprofits are eligible for grants that small businesses are not eligible for. And also, nonprofits can take donations that are tax deductible, whereas small businesses can't. And so I think a lot of the good points were that nonprofits rely on a volunteer board that are doing a lot of the work, and they're doing a lot of the fundraising, because that's some of the primary responsibilities of board members, to do the fundraising, whereas businesses have to do everything. And then when they do hire paid employees, they can pay someone to actually start looking for the grants and investing their time. Whereas small businesses have to do everything, and it's the people who start the business that are investing their time, and so it's harder for them to access the grant. So I'm not saying that not, because I believe strongly in nonprofits. I've worked for nonprofits, and I've also been on the board of nonprofits. But I also think that if you want to elevate small businesses, that there should be some money set aside just for small businesses, so that we don't have to compete with nonprofits. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your input. I really appreciate that. For this particular comment, or slide, I'm going to hold off comments for now, because I'm going to give you an option both for putting things in the comments, but also there's going to be a later meeting, or I'm jumping ahead and giving a little preview. We will have some other specific stakeholder meetings, one around small business, one around nonprofits, and one around veterans coming up, where we can get more input. But being mindful of time, I'm going to go ahead to the next slide. And if you all could, just hold your question or put them in the comment for now, or feel free to reach out to me afterwards. So our third option or third item that I want to get your input on today before we wrap up is around reciprocity. As I mentioned earlier, we have a number of great groups and organizations across the county that also do a lot of purchasing and a lot of contracts out there. And some of them and the state of California have various certifications. And one of the things we wanted to do with the county was be very open and not have to set up our own certification programs and basically add another layer of bureaucracy to those of you who are looking to want to do more business with the county. So our goal is to basically have a list of organizations that if you are certified with them, then we will put you in as a small business with us. So just a reciprocity program. So wanted to get your input on that in terms of, we know some of them, but what agencies currently that you might be certified with that you want to make sure is on the reciprocity list? Do you think that having such a reciprocity list would reduce barriers for those who are looking to work with the county? And are there any other standards or criteria that we should be thinking about? So would love to open it up for your thoughts. And I'm going to put about 5 minutes on this, just because I know we're up at 1:51. So let's do about 5 minutes of comments. And as I said, there will be time later for further input. Personally, I think this is a win-win for everybody. If anyone has any comments, feel free. Now is the time to raise your hand and let me know. Joshua.
Yeah, real quick. I think the question was asked earlier, the minority-owned business enterprise, that will be one, and then hub zone certification. But so those are my two specific ones. I would also, just a question I have, some of the agencies are very sector or technical specific.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very difficult to generalize certification. So there are people that would never, some people don't work in water or some of these other departments. So how do we make sure that, yes, you recognize a diverse set of certificates, but there are those that are common enough to be a level playing field, a grounding factor for everyone? Thanks.
That's a really good question. That's a great point. Do I have anyone on my team? Anyone from DPC would want to answer that, or is that something we want to get back to Joshua on? Sheena, Alan, any thoughts?
Hey,
Hi,
do you mind
Joshua.
repeating the question? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Sheena, please jump.
No, yeah, that's fine. Thank you, Joshua. Please repeat the question.
No, I was just saying that some of the certifications are very sector specific or very technical in nature. So, for example, if it's construction or water, very sector specific, and may not apply to majority of small businesses or non-profits. So the question is the county going to develop just a core set of what you would consider priority core certifications that could be, compared across the board, so that we are comparing oranges with oranges, not oranges with apples? Thanks.
I think that's great feedback, Joshua, and I just want to clarify that when we reference the port or the Metro Water District, we're really saying that in this type of certification, we're hoping to accept any local certifications that other organizations, including those referenced on this slide. So we're really open to feedback on this area as far as like which organizations your businesses may already be certified with, and how we can make it easier for small businesses like yourselves to continue to qualify to do business with the County of San Diego.
Yeah, and I'd like to, the idea here is, sorry, this is Alan Hunsford. We wanted to lower some barriers to participation, right? Not require businesses to have to reapply for new certifications with the county or to have certain ones. We're trying to be as broad and inclusive as possible. Whatever certification you have that in general aligns with this program, we're trying to bring that into the reciprocity to make it as simple as possible so that if you qualify, you're in.
Excellent. Thank you, Alan. And Joshua, if you have further questions, just hang on. I see Zach has raised his hand.
Yes, I just wanted to bring up the point. I think the certification should be just kind of the point of getting into the process. And I think any certification should be okay as long as it meets, the dollar value and the employment thing, and you're also located in the county of San Diego or California. But I think then to actually apply an RFP, then you should have certain criteria that you can actually do the work. So I think that's the second step there. I think getting in is one, and then applying for a grant or a contract would require you have the expertise to do the work. And then there's the other part is an evaluation process, which I don't think we talked about yet, is evaluating those individuals who have contracts, that they're meeting the deliverables and actually doing the work that the county wants done. So we're not going year to year, keep awarding the same contract and never getting the work done.
No, that's an excellent point, Zach. Thank you very much. All right, I was making a note. We are gonna, if you could go to the next slide, what we're gonna do is I'm gonna kind of wrap things up, being mindful of everybody's time. But we will stay on for an additional 10 minutes to answer anybody's questions that we haven't gotten to yet. Ron, I see your hand raised, just 1 second. If you go to next slide, please. So what we're gonna do is I'm just gonna wrap up, be mindful of everybody's time for those of you who have to leave at 2 o'clock. But for those of you who have some additional questions, we will stay for an extra 10 minutes and answer those, and those will all still be recorded for those of you who may want to see it later. So just as a quick notice to everybody, one, thank you all for participating today. Thank you for contributing. Moving ahead, as you can see, we have a number of future items or meetings that we're going to be holding. On May 1st, we're going to have a specific meeting around small businesses and everything we talked about today. On the 5th, we're going to focus again on this nonprofit issue. On the 7th, we're going to look at veteran businesses. And on the 15th, we're going to have a meeting like this again, where we're going to hopefully bring everybody back in and kind of distill all the information we've learned between now and then and showcase what we're looking at for our board meeting later this year, which is on June 24th. And next slide, please. So this again is a QR code to go to our Engage San Diego page, where you will find more information on the policy updates. There's a place for you to provide input and feedback and ask questions. And with that, again, we're going to stick around for another 10 minutes. But I just want to say thank you all for participating today. We can't do this without you. We appreciate all of you so much for your time, your attention, and your thought on this. Thank you all for helping us make San Diego an amazing county to both live and work. And we look forward to hearing and working with all of you in the future. So with that, I'm actually going to keep it on this screen, but I'm going to open it up to any further questions that anybody may have. So again, please raise your hand. And I believe, oh my goodness, was it Ron that just had his hand up? Or whoever had a question, please raise your hand again.
There was a Ron, but it wasn't Ronald.
Oh, okay. Well, Joshua, I see that you're first on my list, so your question, sir.
I don't want to dominate in case someone else want to go first, otherwise I can ask my
No,
question.
please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. No, first of all, great session. Thank you so much. Just to clarify, these other sessions are virtual as well. Is the one on the 15th an in-person meeting or is also virtual?
They were all virtual. Thank you for that. The one thing I did forget to mention, they were all virtual and they all happen at 3 o'clock. And you
Okay,
can register for each of them on the Engage San Diego page.
right. Then the only other question I had was about two quick questions. One was on disability. I see disabled veteran-owned businesses. What about people that live with disability that may not be veterans? Are they covered elsewhere if they own businesses, or is that not a category that is specifically recognized?
Alan, Sheena, can you answer that one?
Yeah, there's no categorization for a disability veteran business besides the disabled veteran. But a disabled owned business would qualify under the small business if they meet the size requirements and ownership requirements.
Okay. And then my only other quick question was talking about certifications. I am assuming that the certifications are required by federal agencies would also be acceptable by the county, because there are some that require like 8A certification, hub zone certification, among others. Will those be some that are accepted by the county as well?
Currently, we have recognition of the veteran-owned small business and disabled veteran-owned small business from the federal certifications, and then the other ones, as many of the certifications and the funding sources do have program requirements where we use the other certifications that are from the federal SBA and Veterans Affairs and et cetera.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joshua. Ron, are you still on the call with your hand raised? Ron, you might want to make sure that
Okay.
you're not muted.
I'm unmuted now. Sorry
Hey,
about that. How are you
no
doing,
problem.
Steve? Great,
Good to hear
great,
from you.
great meeting. So glad that you've done this. I think this is very important for the small business and diverse business community to get to this. So this is great, and I'm looking forward to the future meetings as well. I was only going to comment on the certification. There was a couple of questions about folks being certified and whether their certifications were verified or not. And I think to all of the questions around certification, that's going to be an important part that the county will have to do to make sure that the folks who say they're certified or that they truly are, that you're either using, certain agencies and organizations that we can rely on, or that you have a mechanism for checking those things going forward. 'Cause that's always a challenge as it relates to the
Absolutely.
issue of certification in terms of fairness to the folks that are going to be applying for those things.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Ron. And to everyone else, this is Ron Garnett from the Council on Supplier Diversity. Wonderful group, wonderful man, always a good contact and great person here in the county. So thank you, Ron. I appreciate that.
Yeah, my pleasure. I'm looking forward to helping everyone to pursue their opportunities with the county.
Great, thank you. I saw one question in the chat about will a list of local certified small nonprofits and vendors be made available to medium and large nonprofits or businesses to consider for subcontracting? We will definitely look at that. One of our goals, in addition to everything laid out here, first and foremost, this is an ongoing process. We're going to be, working on this. This is not just we're not just going to wrap this up and walk away. This is a continual improvement process. And one of those things is to not only increase the number of prime contractees that or new prime contractees that we have coming in, but also the number of subcontractees who work with primes, build up their enterprise, build up their business. In terms of having lists of local groups, we will look into that. We'll see if that's something we can do and we can accomplish either through the DPC site or EDGA's site. Lucy, I see your question about federal certification. That is, something that we should look at as well, because I think, team, correct me if I'm wrong, I think if under our new definition, if they are certified from a federal level and they meet the same definition of a small business, it should work. Lucy, but we can chat about that later. And Joshua, we don't have any specific, the question is, are there any specific notifications that are prioritized by the county? Not as much, other than just as we said today, and as Alan Hunsberger said earlier, we do look at things that would put you in the small business category or the veteran disabled category, things like that. I saw that Zach, you had your hand raised.
I'm not sure if you guys are gonna already talking about this, but the evaluation process, I know we've talked about this on a number of occasions, and I would like to actually hope you guys talk about how we're going to evaluate things going forward to make sure that we actually are getting your money's worth when you're letting out a contract. Because
Yes.
working with the feds for many, many years, the audits are critical and very important to help small businesses and nonprofits to get the work done, make sure they're following the regulations correctly. So.
Absolutely, Zach. We want to make sure that, any contract we have is, of course, being done to the letter of the contract, and that they're good clients, good participants. And certainly, that evaluation is something that our leadership has really looked at and something that we're very serious about.
So if you could share that with,
Yes.
in subsequent meetings, in that way people will understand what they're buying into. It's not just you get the money and then you go along. So
Then we just go home and take the money and run.
exactly.
What we'll do, actually, Zach, that's a really good point. We will make that a point of emphasis on our meeting on the 15th. That, we'll make sure we put that into our speaking points and discussion points on that. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you.
Let's see. A couple more questions here that have come in over chat. Michael, if we have an SBA 8A certification for our small business, would San Diego use that for certification? That kind of goes back to what Lucy's question about federal certification. Again, I think that we can use that as a reciprocal, or we would look at that as a reciprocal certification that we will accept under our small business policy. Something that you would have to share with us, though, or any entity looking to that had such certification looking to come into our program. But yes, I think so. Ina, how would we prove we already have a small business certified by another country or the state or county or the state? You would have to provide us with some sort of paperwork or something that showed that certification. We will need that for our process to make sure that you're eligible for the preference that we have here under the small business. And again, that's something we can discuss further offline about, like, what kind of documentation would that entail. In any case, I'd probably connect you with our Department of Purchasing and Contracting. There are many of them, but Sheena and Alan are on the call today, so they would be among the ones who would reach out to you on that. And I think, goodness, I think we have all the questions. Okay, hold on. Alan, your hand is raised.
Real quick, when those policy changes that you discussed where veteran-owned businesses fall into the small business category, when does that take place?
So what we have to do, as of right now, all of these are proposed, and we'll have to bring them before our Board of Supervisors. And right now we're scheduled to do that in late June. They will have to approve all of that. And after that point is when this would all come into effect.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, Steve, and
Joshua.
Yeah, just a quick comment, question. So whilst there are a lot of pathways for registering small businesses and certifying them. Steve, I'm not sure there are that many opportunities beyond the basic registration as a 501c3 and then the tax exemption by IRS. I'm not sure there are very many avenues for certification for nonprofits. So I just something to think about and guide us in terms of what would be acceptable from your point of view.
Absolutely. That's something again that we've talked about. We didn't go into as much detail on this, but I'm sure we will on our specific nonprofit meeting. But definitely there would have to be some sort of indication from the organization that they are a nonprofit. Maybe that's a tax filing. Maybe that's something showing that they have the 501c3. They would have to indicate that.
Thank you.
Excellent. Well, I think looks like we have everything answered from the Q&A and all the questions. So again, thank you all so much for your time. Thank you for your attention to this. I can't tell you how much we appreciate you. I want to thank everybody here on this call that made this call possible, both on our team and for those of you joining us. We hope that you'll join us at some of these future events and again on the 15th. Again, go to Engage San Diego, the website. Please put your thoughts, comments on there. We look forward to hearing more from you and I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.